today's video I am out in dark and misty conditions looking for macro photos just like these. I don't know if it's ambitious or foolish, but I have come out on an extremely grey day. It's a sort of weather where, although it's not raining hard, it's drizzling in such a fine mist that it just permeates everything that I'm wearing. It will very quickly become soaking wet and extremely cold. However, it is one of those amazingly atmospheric days. The whole forest takes on a completely different mood. It's super cinematic and ethereal. I'm really hoping that it's going to lend itself well to getting some shots. So I better get moving and find them. I've talked in videos before about doing macro in poor conditions like this, and I often really enjoy it because you're not reliant on having beautiful conditions. You're not reliant on having amazing sunlight coming in or like stunningly vibrant sunset colours. If anything, coming out on days like this is even better. Firstly, you don't have bright, harsh sunlight that you're going to have to try and contend with in your photos. Because it's so grey and cloudy, we've got very, very flat light. There's no pools of bright highlights coming in through the trees, no shadowy areas. Everything is very, very even. And that's a really, really good starting point for an image, particularly if you are using flash. I'm starting straight away with this little mushroom I found. One of the very few that I think is left. And I need to get my camera really low for this shot. So I've got my tripod inverted. I actually forgot the L bracket for my camera. It's back in my car. So I'm having to sort of mount it awkwardly sideways like this, which isn't great, but it's doable. I think I can get it a little bit lower yet. So I'm going for a vertical composition here, and I've got quite close up to the mushroom. I really like the shallow depth of field with the mosses in front of it, and then we've got the grasses in the background. So I'm probably going to focus stack this, but I'm going to focus stack using a wide aperture, probably around f3.5, something like that, and then focus stack only the mushroom. That way I'm going to get this mushroom nice and sharp and in focus, but still maintain a lovely shallow depth of field. Because if I took this shot at f9, f11, something like that, we'd have so much messiness. All of these busy plants all around it would become in sharp focus. And I just think that by simplifying the scene, it really allows this mushroom to stand out. So starting off actually at f3.2, take my shot. I've taken a shot of the stem and taken a shot of the back top of the cap. And hopefully that should be enough that I can just blend those three images together, nice and simple. It's not super close-up macro, so I don't think I need to do 20, 30 photos for my stack. I think this might be enough. And I think this is a nice first shot of the day. Trying to take this walk fairly steadily because I want to keep my eyes focused on all of this undergrowth underneath all of the trees. Because we've got amazing mosses, amazing bushes, all kinds of things. And it's in amongst that where I'm hopefully going to find some interesting subjects to shoot. I really like these leaves floating on this bit of pond, and I think like a top-down shot could work really nicely if I can find the right composition. I've done a shot like this before when it was top-down on these leaves, and I didn't realise until afterwards that I was really noticeably in the shot, the reflection. So I'm going to try and be a bit more proactive when taking this shot. Hopefully do it in a way that actually looks okay. But you know what? I don't think I can use a tripod at all. Let's try and hand hold this one. I'm going to up my ISO 640, and I'm literally going to... No, you know what? It still just looks like a mirror. And I don't like it at all. I tried. I don't mind trying for shots that I then don't like. It doesn't feel like a failure, it just feels like you're sort of eliminating the other possibilities. In places like this, there are so many potential shots you can get. Everything from actual subjects like mushrooms, insects, flowers, that kind of thing, through to things that are a little bit more abstract that focus more on pattern. With every footstep you take, you could be passing hundreds of potential photo opportunities. So sometimes it really does come down to getting your camera out, taking the shot, and then looking at it on the screen to decide whether or not you actually like that image. That is the beauty, of course, of digital photography. You can take hundreds, thousands of photos on any of your walks, and it hasn't really cost you anything. Just found a lovely cobweb covered in dewdrops. I'm going to try and get a photo of this. It looks nice. I'm just going to try and hand hold this at first. It's going to have to be autofocus. f3.2, focusing on the middle of the web. I quite like that. This is another one where having that wide aperture is so important. If I took this same shot at, say, let's go to f13, we've suddenly got a lot more of that background in focus, and that web doesn't stand out in quite the same way. I think it's so important to just experiment with those settings when you're out, particularly with macro, because I think we can often find ourselves shooting by default at things like f8 or above because we want to maximize that depth of field and have everything in sharp focus. But actually for a lot of subjects, we don't want that. We want to make a light, airy looking image that eliminates those background distractions. Not quite sure what composition is working, if any, really, on this cobweb. So I am finding it easier just to handhold, and I can move the camera around, look through live view, and adjust as necessary. That being said, I think a nice close-up composition that really focuses on those little beads, those shining diamonds on the web. So I am putting it on my tripod for this. Notice that my camera lens is slightly touching this twig, and every time it does, it makes everything shake. So the shot that I've got lined up here, I've tried to put that center of the web in the left-hand frame. I've got to be careful because every time I move my camera, as you can see, it does sort of jiggle the web. I really like how we've got all of the different strands covered in these droplets, all leading towards one nice central point. Again, I want to make sure I'm using a wide aperture, f2.8 at this point, because it makes all of these other ones fall into a lovely out of focus blur. It also means that our background falls completely into blur, so it really highlights the cobweb in front of the lens. So I'm manually focusing here, getting really close up on those crystal-like little orbs. Just going to give it a moment to stabilize and take a shot. And down here, all these blades of grass are absolutely covered in these little dewdrops. So they're not just wet, all of these globules are clinging to each leaf. So it really looks like they've been iced with diamonds. So I've got my camera top down, and I've just sort of been moving it around a little bit, trying to find a nice composition. And actually I really like what I've found here, because we've got this nice line of grass cutting through one angle with all of those droplets on it. There are loads more. It is quite a complicated scene. So by getting closer up and finding a main bit of grass to kind of anchor my scene around, I think that I'm finding a slightly more attractive scene. But I'm focusing close up on these water droplets f5.6, a 30th of a second. And I don't mind that at f5.6, but I'm just going to take my aperture wide open, take my ISO back to 100. It's giving me a shutter speed of 1/25. I'm going to take that shot. This is such a basic shot. It is just a patch of wet grass. But I actually think it's really, really pretty, and it really tells the story of this very, very cold, very wet weather that we've got right now. I'm just walking past this tree, and I just saw that it's got all of these amazing pixie cup lichens all around the base, but it's all in amongst these amazing jagged rocks, so it looks like a really, really cool little area. And I'm sure there's going to be some interesting shots I can get here. It's actually one of those areas where wherever I point my camera, I seem to find more compositions, more little things to shoot. So it's definitely going to be one where I'm just going to handhold for a while and move the camera around the scene and see what shots really stand out to me. Okay, I'll be honest, I'm actually struggling. I think it's maybe that thing of there's so many different ways that I could shoot this that I'm struggling to pick out any particular composition right now. But I'm sure that there are shots here that I can get. So I'm going to put my camera back on my tripod and just be a little more methodical in the way that I'm moving around this scene. So this one I'm going for here, I don't love it, but it's one of the nicer ones I found so far. We've got the lichen in the top third of the frame. We've also got this nice stone, sort of giving a little bit of almost foreground interest here. But I'm shooting f11 because I do want to get a bit more in focus here. ISO 100, and I've manually focused. But what I'm also going to do is take the same shot at f2.8 to give a really shallow depth of field. And I might actually try and blend in some of that shallow depth of field into the shot later. Sort of like anti-focus stacking. I think I found one more composition that I like, but in order to get it, what I'm going to do is put my lens back on autofocus, and I'm going to use the focus bracketing feature on my R5. So to take 35 focus points, which is quite a lot, but I want to make sure I'm getting more than I need. I'm at f5.6 with ISO 100. I'm going to start by focusing at the closest point, and then I'm going to take the focus stack. Well, that brings me to an end of today's video. I do hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, do please consider hitting that like button, and of course consider subscribing to my channel if you don't already, and I will see you next time.